Hey folks, in this video we are going to examine a certain part of the Upper West Side. So we have spoken, I believe, about Lincoln Square, which is below 72nd. This is one of the 72nd Street subway entrances, and behind me is the famous Ansonia. Used to be a hotel, is now a condominium. You can buy apartments there. Babe Ruth, well-known baseball player from the past in America, he lived there. And there are a lot of stories about these beautiful Upper West Side buildings that are pre-war and sort of a Parisian style. We have the Doralton right down here, a little further down. That is more towards the Lincoln Square area, but going up through the 10024 zip code into the 80s. That's what we're going to do on this video. All right, so here we go from Lincoln Square up. Now we're going up through past 72nd. This is Verdi's Square. Giuseppe Verdi, very famous opera composer. He's over here in the park. And it's just a very small park with a subway entrance to the 72nd Street, 1, 2, 3. Today we are going to tour some more of this area. It is part of the Upper West Side, but it's also, the Upper West Side is very large. So we did Lincoln Square. We're going to go up from the 72nd up to probably about 86th. We got a feel for that area, another part of the Upper West Side, and see some of the buildings all the way from the water, Riverside Park, to Central Park. And of course, Broadway runs in between. So I'm going to show you here the famous Ansonia. Used to be a hotel, but it's now condominiums. A few stores and not drama school in there, I believe, but mostly condominiums. When it was a hotel, the very famous Babe Ruth lived there. There's the Apple Bank. Apple Bank also has condominiums now. Not a lot of them, but they're big and expensive. So that tells you per unit costs will be high since they have doorman and a few amenities. That, I think, the former home of Harry Belafonte. He lived there before he passed. And there we go past this very, very ornate sort of Parisian style building. I'm walking by on the southern end. Goes all the way through the north. It's one of the iconic New York City buildings, the Ansonia. They used to have cattle and chickens on the roof for the residents. They could have fresh milk and eggs early in the morning every day without having to go out to farms, but it's become illegal since. I don't know if you can read that plaque. And we go past, a lot of these little brownstone townhouse situations. People had mansions, comparatively speaking, but now they're all chopped up into rental apartments or co-ops, condos. Very few of them are still single-family homes. Some are being taken back and converted. This is a building. The Level Club used to be a lodge for some of the Freemasons, I believe. Now condominiums. So very interesting, beautiful lobby, which I cannot show you. I don't believe they allow us to take pictures and video, but nice place to live, very central and historic. As we get over to West End Avenue, which is the next block here, extremely residential street, at least in this section. As you go down further, you can get some stores, but from here all the way up to, I guess, 106th, 107th, mostly residential. And these are, of course, we're on 73rd, one block north of 72nd, headed over to Riverside Park. So we're heading west, due west here. We're coming across West End, and then when we get to Riverside, we'll show you, I think this entire block is a co-op. So from here on West End Avenue, all the way to Riverside, and between 73rd and 74th. So an entire city block is this huge co-op, and it's called the Schwab House. The reason it's called the Schwab House is it used to be a castle. The Schwab family, who owned this a lot of this area, had a castle with a moat around it. And they came out during the Depression, tried to help people by giving them sandwiches on the lawn. But pretty soon the Depression hit them, and they had to give up their famed Schwab Castle. I think it was handed over to the government, and the government handed it over to developers, and they built this huge co-op, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of units, called Schwab House. I've shown some apartments in there fairly recently. These are little, again, those townhomes. This one here seems nice and ornate with the little round terrace out there. I've actually rented that apartment in the past as a ballroom, believe it or not. That was the ballroom for the entire townhouse. But since it's all cut up, it's a one-bedroom apartment, and that's the living room. So we have a ballroom for a living room. Interesting little ways things get transformed in the city. Because back in the day, they were all single-family homes. And the first apartment to be constructed was the Dakota, which most people know of as John Lennon's home. So here we are, Riverside Park. Riverside it starts here at 72nd. Down there you have some modern buildings. Many of them started off by Trump organizations, some of them still under Trump management. And a development down West Side Highway there, which I believe I mentioned in our last section. It's a little windy today. The closer you get to Riverside, one of the cons in the winter is that it's windy. One of the pros in the summer is that it's nice and breezy. There's one of the first lady statues over there, maybe Eleanor Roosevelt. I forget exactly who. But we're going to go up from here. So this is the actual start of actual Riverside Park. Over 100 years old, renovated maybe 20, 30 years ago. You get these different levels. This is a walkway. You can see some lawns over there. People chilling in the grass. It's a good day for sunning. However, hopefully the breeze doesn't get them, but they're in a bit of depression, so maybe it's less breezy there. And that, of course, is the West Side Highway. So we're not on Riverside Drive. That's Riverside Drive up there. We're in this walkway, part of Riverside Park. Obviously a nice place to walk your dog, skateboard, bicycle, enjoy the park. This park is long and narrow. It goes all the way up into the hundreds, well past the Upper West Side, maybe even past Washington Square. Not Washington, the Washington Heights rather. And like right here you see some basketball courts, people playing basketball. There are tennis courts. And I think what we'll do is we'll get to the boat basin. There's a boat basin here on the Hudson River. People used to live in their boat, so it was a way of life. I'm not sure if that's still allowed, but they did have laws where people could live in their boats. Now, interesting fact about Riverside Drive, or Riverside Park, is that there are no statues in the park. They're all along the periphery. So if you go up on Riverside Drive, every now and then you will see a statue. They're sort of interspersed on various cross streets. There's a whole set of carriage lanes. It's not actually part of Riverside Drive, but it's next to it. Back in the days, automobiles would go down the drive, and then the carriages would pull up where they could drop off people to the fancy apartment buildings that were being built back then. So this is a playground for kids. A lot of times kids, you're not allowed in there without being accompanied by a child. Up here you see some pretty nice mansions all along Riverside Drive. These are some of the smaller buildings. The bigger ones are very fancy co-op apartment buildings built in the early part of the last century, meaning the 1900s, or what was called the 20th century. Every now and then you come across a little area here where the traffic has to pass. So that's here and in Central Park. I believe at 96th, well, we're not quite there. Let's get to that boat basin, and I think it's coming up pretty soon. All right, so it appears there's some construction going on, so I couldn't quite get to the boat basin. That way, let's see if I can get through here and get onto the drive, or the promenade, or the walkway, sidewalk, somewhere near the boat basin. Well, folks, yeah, it looks like we're in the country a little bit, but no, this is Manhattan proper. The waterfront of this city was not developed for many, many years. It was used for shipping, and it's one of the shipping capitals of the world. But now they're trying to rejuvenate it. They've taken several piers, built them out into recreational spaces and performance spaces, restaurants and cafes. Now this is where I'm looking for this boathouse, which is actually below us, I believe. I'm looking through this tunnel area, and that's New Jersey on the other side. So we're close to the Hudson River. Yes, everything's definitely under construction here. But we'll take a quick little detour here just so you can see the water. And when the Boathouse Cafe comes back, we'll go there. Who knows? Months, years. That's one of the things with the construction here. can take a long time. They're doing a big job. All right, that's encouraging. Somebody did come out from here. Ooh, it's dark in here. This is not normal just for this period when there's construction going on. It's a beautiful area, and I'm sure they're beautifying it even more, where they have this sort of rotunda. The cars go around the top, and maybe you can see a little bit here. Cars going up around the top. And then that area is usually part of the Boathouse Cafe. Not in existence this summer, for sure. So no Boathouse Cafe, but boat basin. Let's see if there are any boats here. And nope, I do not see a single boat. So they're probably revamping this whole thing as well. People used to live here. 79th Street, Hudson River. There is the George Washington Bridge, back on 181st. That's the Galaxy in Gutenberg, New Jersey. Weehawken not far away, where Alexander Hamilton was shot. The duel with, was it Burr, Alan Burr? Anyway, sorry for the disappointment. We'll come back here in a couple years. Off we are to the west side. Now this path, just so you know, goes up and down. I'm standing, I think, in the bicycle area. Whoops, up and down the west side, all the way from Battery Park City, Battery Park maybe, to up into Washington Heights, and I think all the way up the island. So it's a very nice path. All right, so little break here, and we will come back on 79th Street, crossing over east towards Central Park, the Museum of Natural History, and the park over there. Okay, so we had a little detour to the Basin Cafe, both under construction, Riverside, and we've come back up 79th Street, and I'm in front of this beautiful building called the Apthorpe. The Apthorpe is one of the famous Upper West Side landmarks. You've all heard of these stories from TV series like Only Murders in the Building and plenty more. So some of these iconic West Side apartment buildings, those back in the early part of the last century, were basically very elite homes. So now many of them turned condos, and as you can see, somebody just got access to a car service. Drive right on into this little oval between the buildings, a whole big courtyard. So that's the Apthorpe. We're here on 79th. 79th is one of the crosstowns. So it's a big two-way street, in some ways a little more trafficked, but again, it does culminate in the park, the Museum of Natural History. You can see there's a subway stop here, the 79th Street subway on the one train. You've got a crosstown bus. And there are a few areas where you can cross under Central Park to the east side. So this is one of them that does go in at 79th Street and come back out on 81st. So let's cut across, see where we go. Actually have famous Zabar's up the block here. It's a deli. It's been around 100 years, so very well known. That's up a couple of blocks on Broadway, 81st. An idea of the landscape here. Again, that's the river over there. Got to the north side of the street. Zabar's might be under scaffolding, so it may not be a good idea to go there, just visually. We'll walk up 79th over to towards the east side, but we're still very much west. East is east and west is west. And only in Central Park do they meet. Fifth Avenue, which travels along the east side of Central Park, is the dividing line for most blocks in Manhattan. The numbers going east go up from there. The numbers going west go up from there as well. And then you have a W in the middle, or an E, to let you know which side of town you're on. Fairly attuned to the landscape here. You could look at one of these little buildings, find out that it has an even number, so that would be on the south side of the street. Even number buildings on the south side of the street. Odd number buildings on the north side of the street. We saw an even number building in apartment 2A. Would be on the second floor facing north. Doesn't always work, but it's a good guide. This is a famous old, well, not that old, Gloucester, fairly old, co-op. and some sales there. This is a beautiful hotel in Lucerne. It's an amazing restaurant, Nice Matin. High-end French fare. Here we have the crosstown bus coming up again. This one's going back west. The various buses go under the park. So I think I was mentioning there are a few transverses under Central Park so that people can get from the east to the west without trampling over the park. 79th is one of them, and hence you see the 79th Street crosstown. As we go further west, it's going to turn up to 81st Street. So we'll jog up there. And at 81st, you'll see the Beresford, which is a beautiful building right across from the Museum of Natural History. Most people know as because of the movies such as Night in the Museum and things like that. I think there was one in Washington, D.C., but the New York one was Natural History Museum here in New York. So some of these are old co-ops. You even have some rental buildings. I think the only condo is the one at the end of the block that you can't see from here. You get the idea. These are all pre-war, meaning pre-Second World War. There are always wars. There have been many wars. There will be many, unfortunately. But the one we measure from is the Second World War. The architectural styles changed drastically. So all these buildings that you see are in an older style from the previous century, the early part of that century, which was before the Second World War. After the Second World War, styles changed. More modern, clean looks without all this, what my mother sometimes called gingerbread. And these smaller windows. It's actually a rental building there. This one right next to it is a co-op, but you can see the work on them. You don't get this in a modern building. You see one across the street there, 130. That's a post-war building. Slightly cleaner lines, not as many details. Another fancy co-op here. It's a very unique block in that sense. It has a certain character. Every block has a certain character. This one has a lot of pre-war buildings. Some of them are 20 stories, 16 stories. Others are old townhouses. So these all used to be single-family homes at one point. You can see there's some commercial there. Probably a few apartments above. See how ornate, very old world. And then all of a sudden, we got a post-war. Back in the probably the 80s or 70s even, someone acquired this corner and built a high-rise. So from a distance, you'll see this building rising above all the rest. Not very modern, but much more modern than the other buildings we passed. Keep changing the stores in here. It used to be a real estate company at one point. Now they've got interesting things for sale. And this is the backside of the Museum of Natural History. Now that is actually super modern, only built in the last couple of years. Some sort of organic / modern take to it. We'll go up a little closer, maybe see the back of a dinosaur, and then move on to Central Park West. I think they're saying I can go. They actually give me the signal, but no one's coming at me, so keep moving. Always check for bicycles, scooters. Nope, nobody coming. And here we are crossing into the grounds of the Museum of Natural History. Yeah, it looks very modern. This is not characteristic of most of the building, but it is a very new part of this establishment. Or believe it or not, I went to the Blue Whale. Under the Blue Whale, I got my first COVID vaccines back in the day. We had a lot of encouragement. Oh yeah, maybe I can look in here and see a dinosaur. They have these little dots here so birds don't fly in and hit them. But maybe, just maybe, you see a dinosaur. Is that just a reflection? I'm not sure. Yeah, I think you can see a dinosaur. Okay. Well, I'm not going to walk through the museum, but walk around. So these are all grounds that belong to the museum. We're not in Central Park per se, but this separates that part of the Upper West Side where we were from anything east, because this museum takes up a whole area here that goes all the way up. Oh, somebody just graduated. Columbia University, my alma mater. These beautiful pre-war buildings there. Those are on Columbus Avenue. And we are walking around through this park area, which belongs to the museum. All right, so within the grounds here, we do have dog runs. These are some of the iconic buildings. Famous pre-war WAPs. I think Seinfeld, some other famous people live up there. Beresford. It's got 4 of those water towers you can see from a distance. And that's the planetarium over there. The big dome inside, and huge attraction on the Upper West Side. Obviously, we have the Metropolitan Museum on the east side, right across the park. Here we are on the west side with the Museum of Natural History. For some reason, we've got a lot of construction here, so we'll try to cross, get a better idea. Again, this is the transverse going right through Central Park over there. I better move quickly. We got the Excelsior Hotel, a few restaurants down at that corner. Columbus Avenue has a lot of restaurants. We just crossed Columbus and we're on headed to Central Park West, which is non-commercial, mostly residential up here. A lot of very large pre-war residential co-ops. I guess they had a little baseball game in the park. Here's the Beresford, at least one of the entrances. There are multiple entrances. It takes up a huge portion of the block. Videos of some of the apartments somewhere. They're old pre-war apartments. Again, a very interesting style, a different era, appealing to some very famous people. The bus stop there. And we're on Central Park West. Again, a subway entrance here, the BNC first. Museum vehicle running around on the street. Yeah, a lot of construction here, but let's see if we can get you a glimpse of the front, the Museum of Natural History part that's been here 100 years. Now all these buildings, even though they look old and have been here 100 years, often replace something else. It was here even longer. Even Central Park, which is 150 years old, I believe in this area replaced something called Seneca Village, which is a bunch of African American and Irish settlers who had a little town out here in the countryside, because Central Park was part of the countryside over 150 years ago. Well, whenever you come to a touristy area where a lot of people come to see the attractions, you get to see cheap eats. They're not cheap. They're just cheaply made. It should be cheap, but they rip off the tourists because they can. The entrance that goes down reserved for members and staff. I think I went down there for my vaccination back in the day. Tourist buses lined up. This is the front of the museum. There used to be a lovely statue here of Teddy Roosevelt. People are not supposed to be on the sidewalk, but they do whatever they want to do. And that was removed for political considerations. Some people it's very important. Other people is, why would you remove a statue of a former president? It was into conservation. And I believe he was also governor of New York at one point. Got a shootout. It's luckily got nothing to do with guns. They're shooting each other with cameras. Walking right along Central Park, the west side. This avenue is called Central Park West, whereas the other one, the other side of the park is called 5th Avenue. Central Park West is really 8th Avenue. That's not what it's called here. Another subway entrance, the B&C trains, some more tourist trap food shops. You get to see the architecture of this beautiful old building. A little easier in the winter because trees are blocking a lot of this beautiful stonework and some of the cornices building. Out of view right now. Let's see if we can get a little better view from here. There we go. Oh, along there, this whole block, this lovely park that we came pretty much gone around the whole park now. Well, let's see if we can cross the street here without getting tempted by an ice cream sundae or get hit by a car. Now, this is a very famous New York scene. Usually in the middle of the street, they somehow let all this steam out. There's a lot of steam under this city. Now, this is the Historical Society. A couple of good statues over here. Frederick Douglass and Cafe 77. Beautiful old doors. Front desk right here. Various exhibits. Nothing as big as the Meadow Museum of Natural History, but it's a good, also an event space. 100 dazzling lamps. Tiffany. So it's all about Tiffany right now. For those of you who know about Tiffany lamps, it's a huge sensation back again in the previous century, where the creator of these lamps assembled glassware in very intricate patterns. Oh, there's a Honest Abe, Abraham Lincoln, right here. As you can see, Central Park South is not too far away. Also a couple of the Ghostbuster buildings. I think we have the San Remo here on 75th, I believe. Let's see if we can get across the street to show you that. Again, the larger buildings are on the avenues, smaller buildings, like there's a lot of construction going on here. Old mansions, townhouses, now converted to rentals or co-ops. Hey, sleepy dog. And here we are on the park side of Central Park West. I'll give you a little glimpse of the San Remo, one of the buildings that was used in inspiration for Ghostbusters. The Twin Towers of San Remo. Robert Caro is the power broker. Goodness, gotta go take a look at that. Very, very famous developer of New York City, who was actually a civil servant. Built a lot of the city. A lot of people hate him. Took down housing and made highways, so parks and beaches, and who knows what else. Very, very prominent figure. Written about, a very prominent writer. Robert Caro's The Power Broker at 50. So Robert Caro is a writer. He wrote about city and the politics, and Robert Moses, who was I believe he was the park department commissioner, somehow managed to wield a lot of power, changed the face of the city in many ways. Not a developer, but developed a lot of the city to what it is today. There you can see one of the towers of the Museum of Natural History. So we're still around the 70s. We're going to move up into the 80s and get back to you with some of the buildings, apartments, attractions after this point. All right, so this is just a quick shot of the beautiful vista here. The Museum of Natural History, the main entrance, and the Beresford right across 81st Street. And then here we have Central Park. As we go up Central Park West, we got some nice signage here. American Museum of Natural History, apex, the largest Stegosaurus ever discovered. Maybe that was the one I was trying to show you through the glass over there. Who knows? We're outside, not in the museum. Okay, so this gives you an idea. We just came off Central Park West. Very tall co-op building on the corner. Now we come to the street side. The side streets, and we have these pretty little townhouses, brownstones. I know you say, well, pretty little. Well, we have two-story houses in our neighborhood, but these are what used to be single-family homes, but cut up, many of them, into rental properties, 2, 3 apartments per floor, maybe a floor through, maybe a duplex, a garden duplex, or maybe the owner would live and then rent out the other units above. So get you a little feel of various types of Upper West Side buildings. Got a lovely stone arch over there. And we can cut through here, pass this car pass, 2 cars pass, 3 cars, 4 cars, 7 cars. Oh, he's stopping. But he's not stopping. Oh well, look at that arch. Isn't that beautiful? And I want to live here. Some people only want to live here. It's very specific styles, feels. Townhouses mostly do not have elevators. If you're in a little apartment, rental apartment, there'll be no laundry. To go to the laundromat at the end of the block, pick up, drop off, send out something. This is an apartment building again. Not quite as big, but bigger than the townhouses. Different types of townhouses. The brown ones are known as brownstones. The white ones known as limestones. And obviously many of them have been painted over. There are brick townhouses. This is one of our newer developments, composting. So we have all these different types of trash and also composting. So recycling, trash, and composting, where food scraps, flowers you want to throw out, anything organic like that goes into that brown compost. These little things like Taylor and dry cleaning. Most neighborhoods have a few of them. So now we're coming on to Columbus Avenue. Columbus Avenue, one away from Central Park West, one west, it's west of Central Park West. A lot of restaurants, a lot of stores, very different than Central Park West, which is mostly residential, the park, museum, churches, synagogues, things like that. So here it's more smaller establishments, help people live in the neighborhood. This is a pretty fancy neighborhood establishment. Here it's very expensive. But then again, everything's expensive in New York City. Very hard to find anything reasonable, affordable. unless you're just used to it. We also have another crosstown bus here. The 86 goes across to East 88th, I believe, past the Metropolitan Museum of Art on the east side. Another one of those Central Park transfers, they call it. And that's Columbus Avenue. So we just walked up Columbus, keeps going up for a few more. That's up quite a ways, but restaurants start dwindling a little bit. Every section has its own, so some people are only into the 80s, so we're up to 86th now. It's sort of a dividing line. It's a two-way street. As I said, it does go across the park, and you will have people say, oh, I only want to live below 86. And then there are people who say 86 to 96, and then there's 96th up, which is a little less expensive, so maybe that's a good idea. But each section of the Upper West Side, and for that matter, each section of the city, has its own feeling, vibe, whatever you want to call it, and that appeals to different people for whatever reason. Sometimes it's just the architecture, stores, proximity to the park. Other times it's budget. You don't have a large budget. You don't really want to live in the West Village. You may love it there. You can always hop on a train and go down. So tend to be a lot of these apartment buildings on 86 because it's a large crosstown street. So there are not as many of the little townhouses that you find on the other side streets. Some very large landlords from yesteryear own many of these buildings. There'll always be rental buildings, and some of them will always be co-ops. But the more modern buildings, which you don't see many of here, but some are being converted. Some of the older buildings, like one we're going to see up on the next block. That's another one of those famous TV show. It's a lovely old church here that's struggling to keep up landmark status. They don't want landmark status. They want to sell the building, but beautiful old church, so a lot of people don't want to see it destroyed. That's the struggle. After Columbus, we get to Amsterdam Avenue. Now, earlier in our tour, we were on Riverside Drive. We went all the way from Riverside, past Broadway, West End, Broadway, Amsterdam, Columbus to Central Park West, and now we're heading back. Now we've made it back to Amsterdam. And we have this huge building, very well known. It's the Bel Noord. It's this entire block. Again, courtyard in the middle, like before, like we saw on the Apthorpe earlier. Also used in these TV shows like Only Murders or whatever. Fortunately, I'm not conversing with many of those TV shows because I live the real life. Look at that lovely Rolls Royce coming through here. I'm sure you have those in your towns, but nice to see one rolling by here on Amsterdam Avenue. Those are all buildings that they're checking out their facades to make sure nothing's falling off. You have to do that every 5 years, I believe. Anything above 6 stories. Anyway, so here we are at the huge Bel Noord building, which has turned condo. There's many condo units in here, brand new. They take the old, gorgeous ceilings and turn them into condos with more modern appliances and fancy lighting and so on and so forth. I'm sure there are quite a few rent-stabilized tenants still there, rent-controlled even. That's in the earlier program. People much older pay very little money for a huge apartment. I don't want to say fancy because they were fancy at one point in time, but nobody wants to renovate an apartment where you're not getting very much rent. So here's the 86th Street 1 train on Broadway. It's a local stop, but it kind of gives you that another sort of dividing line between the parts of the Upper West Side. That is south of 86th Street. This is north of 86th Street, the boulevard. Some of these buildings have pools. I believe that's a co-op with condo rules. And we keep going up across to the river, but we're going to conclude here with this section. Sometimes in the summer we have artwork on these, what they call the Broadway malls. This is the conclusion to a little walk on a portion of the Upper West Side from the low 70s up into 86th here. So Lincoln Square was another video up through the 80s. This one, we went all the way to the river, Riverside Park, back west to Central Park, museum, all kinds of different housing from the outside. And we're on to the next video. Follow me, subscribe, contact me if you're interested in any housing whatsoever. And while I do a lot of videos in New York City, we do have branches across the country, so we can help you. Reach out with real estate questions, especially with residential. Christopher Butt with the Corcoran Group, signing off.